Hello, you spooktacular people. Welcome to this 602nd episode of the History Goes Bump podcast, Ghost Tours for the Theater of the Mind. I'm your host, Diane.
And this is Kelly.
Kelly, on this episode, we're taking our listeners along with us. We took a little trip out to Crystal River, Florida. We found some haunted locations out there, one of which are some of these old Native American mounds. And we got some evidence out there that we're looking forward to sharing with you. And there's a couple other haunted locations that we'll get into. And also, we visited a cemetery there and we made I guess you'd say a reel for Instagram and a short over there for YouTube. And we found out some more information behind that. So we're going to share that on this episode as well. And Kelly, we listened to our listeners. And so some of you liked some of the changes, didn't like some of the changes. So here's what we're going to do. The segments are going to stay here, but we had a listener suggest, hey, why don't you do one this episode and then the other one the next episode? So you have an oddity here, a history there, an oddity there, a history there. So that's what we're going to do.
Thank you, Gina.
Yes. So we're going to go with that idea for this. And we also put out a poll about where do you want the bloopers? And what won was everybody likes them at the end. So the bloopers are going back to the end of the episodes. Also, I have figured out, I believe, how to get the sound on the actual video to be better. So for those of you who watch it at YouTube or for our executive producers over at Patreon, the sound should get better because you guys are getting video. For those of you who are just listening to the audio, the sound has been the same. It's no different for you guys. But I wanted to improve it, especially for our executive producers, because you guys are very important to us. You help to fund the show. So we want to make sure that your sound is the best. And I always say that I'm kind of like a sound Nazi. I'm really, it's very important to me.
Yes.
So I'm like, when I start hearing complaints about the sound, I was like, oh no, I've got to fix that. So I think that's been fixed. So we're still going to be putting out video content along with the audio. So you can do either or both. And I think everyone will be happy with where we're at right now. And thank you to everybody who gave us your honest opinions. That's when we ask you, what do you guys think? We really want to hear honest. I want to just hear, oh no, you guys are fabulous at everything you do, because we know that's not true and that there's things that you don't like. So maybe some of you aren't happy with some of the changes that we are going to keep, but I think everybody will be satisfied with this middle ground that we seem to have found. Except for that one jerk who sent us the comment that
Oh, well.
will remain unnamed here that just thought we were completely unlistenable now.
History tells the story of the world and of our lives. Sometimes that history goes bump in the night. Broadcasting from the center of Oddity and the supernatural in Central Florida, it's the History Goes Bump podcast.
We want to welcome into the Spooktacular crew Eldon and Jody. I believe it's a joint account, so I don't know if it's Eldon, if it's Jody, if it's both of you. Welcome. And also Sarah with an H.
Thank you so much for joining the Spooktacular crew.
And now, this moment in Oddity.
The moment in Oddity was suggested by Chelsea Flowers. Back in 1959, a 15-year-old young man named Jim Bishop purchased a plot of land in Colorado. 10 years later, he embarked on a unique journey with the goal of single-handedly building himself a home on that property. This initial structure began as a stone cottage. However, residents in the area started commenting about how much the home looked like a castle. Those thoughts sent Jim Bishop's imagination into overdrive. Over 44 years, Mr. Bishop continued adding stone and iron into his home, gradually making it more and more castle-like. By the end of its creation, Jim Bishop's castle displayed a tower that stands over 160 feet high, intricate spiral staircases, stained glass arch windows, and a view of the surrounding mountains, grand halls divided by stone and steel arches, and a fire-breathing dragon on the front peak of the castle. What? It's pretty awesome. It looks like it's straight out of Harry Potter or something like that.
Oh, you're kidding. I have to see pictures of this.
Please do look it up, everyone.
Actually, I'll find a picture and I'll put it up in here.
Very good. dragon does actually breathe fire. With the assistance of a hot air balloon burner, and due to a cleverly designed chimney, the nostrils do blow smoke.
Holy cow!
Yeah, very cool. Bishop's Castle is open to the public for visits, and it works off of donations to help preserve the unique structure. Sadly, Jim Bishop passed away in November of 2024. However, it is reported that his son is continuing with his father's vision and will keep maintaining and building onto the incredible structure. So if you're in the area, if you've been there, if you have personal photographs, please share them in the crew.
Yeah, because I lived in Colorado and I'd never heard of this or been there.
I guess it's a little south of Pueblo.
Okay. What a bummer that I never got to see it when I was there.
The town of Crystal River in Florida is the home of the manatee. We love them. This is where they can be found in the winter, congregating in the natural springs found in the area. Those springs attracted indigenous people as well, and some of them left behind their mounds. These not only have cultural and historic interest, but they have paranormal activity as well, which we discovered for ourselves. There are other locations with ghost stories too. One which also has a connection to Elvis Presley and his film, Follow That Dream. And we found a wonderful small historic cemetery that not only had some sad stories to share, but the activity we experienced there brought us back for a second trip. Join us as we share the history and hauntings of Crystal River.
The town of Crystal River sits along what is known as the nature coast of Florida. And for people who don't know, Florida, all different parts of our peninsula, I guess as you'd say, have all these different coast names all around them. We got the Space Coast and the Emerald Coast and the Nature Coast, and it just goes on and on from there. So this was the Nature Coast, and this area is home to manatees and a wide variety of other animals that enjoy the natural springs, marshland, and flowering plants. Florida's early pioneers, known as crackers, built their simple and sturdy wooden homes here that featured high ceilings and large windows for airflow. And of course, when I first moved here and I started hearing people talking about cracker houses and crackers, I was like, okay, are we throwing around
Little
epithets now?
derogatory term.
Because we don't call them that there in Colorado. It's what they call them here in Florida. Those early settlers are called crackers. But long before they arrived, the people of the Deptford culture were here, followed by the Santa Rosa Swift Creek culture and the Fort Walton period, and they left behind their mounds. They abandoned the area for unknown reasons. Probably the main reason would be that the Europeans did start to come in. You had your Spanish and your British. So I think that's part of what happened here. But also, it is really hard to live in Florida, especially with as overgrown as it would have been with a lot of these things. So there might have been something that happened, and maybe even weather-wise, that would have made them leave the region because it just wasn't as plentiful with things that they needed. Native Americans had called the Crystal River Wiwahi-Iaka. After the Armed Occupation Act of 1842 was passed, 22 settlers filed claims for land in Crystal River. And for those who don't know what the Armed Occupation Act of 1842 was, it was basically, if you can guard this plot of land with a weapon, it's yours. And that was to drive the Native Americans out of those areas. Not many people would come here until after the Civil War, but during the war, there were small skirmishes because the Union Navy blockaded the entire coast of Florida, because obviously this was a great place to bring in those important supplies that were needed for the Confederacy. The Spanish had planted citrus trees all over Florida, and this also attracted people from the north. Crystal River not only was a fishing economy, but turpentine became a major business, as did cedar mills. The Dixon Cedar Mill employed everyone, including women and black, so it was before its
Very
time, I
diverse.
guess you could say.
Yeah.
The richest phosphate deposits in the world were discovered in 1889, and the area boomed until 1914 thanks to that. the railroad showed up at about the same time as the phosphate discovery, so that helped with the boom as well. Crystal River would become an official town in 1903 and was incorporated in 1923. Kelly, we like to go camping in our trailer now, so I was like,
Yes.
we've got to go up to Crystal River. Where do we want to stay? So we found a great campground there. And then I was like, oh, is there anything haunted in that area? And the
Because we
first,
always got to look.
yes, we want to find out about things that have legends or hauntings next to them, obviously. And the first thing that came up was the first place that we went to visit, and that is the Crystal River Archaeological Park. And I had no idea. I have seen where we have these shell mounds where they would have all these oyster shells. It was basically the trash mounds that a lot of the Seminoles and such would leave behind. But I didn't know that we had these kinds of mounds here where they would have these like ceremonial and burial type things going on.
This state park is located at 3400 North Museum Point and features all varieties of mounds left behind by what is believed to be the Deptford culture. Those mounds included not only the trash or midden mounds many indigenous groups would leave behind, but there were also ceremonial mounds and burial mounds, as Diane said. At this park, there are only 6 mounds that still remain. It is possible that there were more, but settlers had used them for fill dirt, and that's how the artifacts buried in them were discovered. 2 unique stelas, or stone monuments, were left behind as well. These were large pieces of limestone and have carvings on them. One of them looks like a human face.
And we'll go ahead and show that here.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how they're showing it. It's this face in the stone. Of course, it could be pareidolia, where you just see faces and things, but you can kind of see how it looks like a face there with the, I don't know if I can get my finger in here. You see the head would be right there. I don't know. It feels a little bit like pareidolia to me.
Yeah, it does, but
Maybe it was carved in there.
what makes the site so fascinating for us is that there were clear connections to Central American civilizations and also groups from the Ohio River Valley. As a matter of fact, this is the southernmost site in the United States to have a burial mound layout like the ones in the Ohio River Valley.
Which I thought was so cool. I'm like, you've got the serpent mound that's there in the Ohio River Valley, and then we hear about these other mounds at different locations there in Ohio, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, we have almost nearly the same thing here in Florida." And I've seen some of them that are in Alton, Illinois as well.
Mhm.
All look very similar. The ones in Alton, Illinois are really, really tall. Ours here are not quite as tall. But I just thought, isn't that interesting that it seems that these cultures that were up in Ohio, it indicates that they had to have been coming down this way to do trading, or maybe they were migrating down here, some of their groups maybe, because there's definite connections there. It's either that or all of these people were doing the same thing for some reason. So were they having contact with something that was similar? I'm not saying aliens, but was there something similar that they were having contact with that indicated to them, hey, you should do this or what have you?
Could be.
Kathleen Walls wrote Finding Florida Phantoms in 2004, and she wrote in there that a ranger reported that voices had been heard among the mounds when no one was present, and some apparitions have apparently been spotted here as well. So we brought our recorder and K2 with us when we visited, and we should have brought some bug spray.
A lot of it.
Because poor Kelly got eaten alive. I got some bites too, but they actually ran her off. She was like, I'm going back to the truck.
Deer flies, and man, their bites hurt.
Oh, man. So we started at Burial Mound G, because why wouldn't you start at a burial mound? And it wasn't a very tall mound, and we will put a video out over on YouTube where we're going to each one of the mounds to show you. I won't do that here because it'll be visually pleasing, but not audio pleasing, and we have more listeners that are audio. So we'll make a separate video that has all the different mounds for you guys to see. But this wasn't a very tall mound. You almost wouldn't know it was there, but it was enough. And here in Florida, we don't have things like that. We don't have
We
a
don't
lot
have
of hills and stuff.
We do right where we live, but this is about
Yeah.
the most hilly area of Florida.
Exactly. So this is thought to be one of the earliest mounds based on radiocarbon dating. Many of the artifacts found here were items that weren't very valuable, and they didn't really indicate it on the stuff that you can read about the area there. But Kelly and I were like, let's see. So they didn't have as valuable as some of the other burial mounds. It makes you think that people who were of a lower status probably were buried here. So that's what we figured. But it could have also been a less developed culture because they had different cultures that were coming through here over
Different.
hundreds of years. So it might have just been that this was a different culture that didn't have those kinds of valuable things or what have you. We passed several midden mounds, which are basically those trash heaps, and they would have oyster shells, animal bones, charcoal, broken pieces of pottery. So if you think about it, that's what we do today. You'll drive around a city and you'll see these huge hills, and then they have all these pipes coming out of them, and you're like, oh, that's the city dump over there.
They got the burpers going.
So they were doing the same thing back then, just minus the burpers and, the plastic diapers and stuff like that.
Ugh.
The top mound at the site was Temple Mound A, and this rises 30 feet. So as I said, ours aren't very tall here. It was tall, but not as tall as what I've seen and like on TV or actually experienced myself. It definitely has a flat top to it, so this is not something that is a part of the landscape. We don't have plateaus here. And this was high enough that the entire group that would have been settled in this area here would have been able to see what was going on top of that mound. So it's believed that this probably had a temple that was built on top of it and that rituals would have been conducted there so that everybody could see what was going on. They believe it was probably built in 400 AD, and unfortunately, only about a third of it still remains. Because what happened, Kelly?
Some construction companies utilized part of the mound to
It's fill dirt.
build. Yeah.
We have free fill dirt. And so
Ugh.
2/3 of it was used. Mainly, there was like a motorhome park that they put
Yeah.
in there a long, long time ago. It's not even there anymore, obviously. But they were like, oh, look at the fill dirt. Oh, it has stuff in it. I wonder why. So whatever that had been originally, we'll never know. But
Thankfully, it became a state park in the 1960s, so everything was preserved from that timeline going forward.
yeah. So before you got ran off and before we got to Temple Mound A, you were carrying the K2 and all of a sudden you looked down and you went, wait, the K2 is going off. It's like pinging up to yellow. So I quick turn on my phone and we took a video of it. And for us, I have to say, our K2 rarely goes off. I mean, I know that a lot of the paranormal investigation teams out there, that's what they use a lot of. When you're going on a ghost tour, they'll hand them out to everybody. And we just haven't had much luck with them. We'll bring it with us and we'll turn it on, but we really don't get a lot of interaction or a lot of it lighting up.
Yeah, it's kind of hit and miss in regards to the reactions with that.
We had a very different experience here in Crystal River with it.
We
We got a
sure
lot of
did.
our stuff with that. Now, it rarely ever goes to red for us, especially. So we have a hard time getting it to even go to yellow or orange, but to get it to go to red, it went to red for us on this. And at one point, it definitely seemed like it was saying, I'll go to red because you're asking me to go to red.
Right. And we were in the middle of this big open landscape. There was nothing around
There's nothing. I mean, there's
other than deer flies and mosquitoes.
yeah. I mean, the museum is there, but the museum was quite a ways away from where we were
Oh,
probably
yeah.
as far away from the
About a
museum
quarter
as
of
you
a
could
mile,
get, and
probably.
it was quite a ways. And so I'm like, there is literally nothing. There's no wires. I couldn't even think like Wi-Fi, anything that would be setting it off. I'm like, there's no way that this can be something other than we're getting some kind of a
Energy.
spiritual energy going on here. Now, we couldn't figure out if we were talking to something that was necessarily a Native American spirit. Was it an earth spirit? It wouldn't communicate with us in that way, and it was very brief. It was only there for a very short period of time. So we'll go ahead and play that video for you here.
Thank you.
Oh, it looks like we're getting somebody to communicate with us. It's kind of
Can you
hard
make
to
it-
see on the light here, but
No, it's not reacting to your phone now, right?
I don't think so.
We weren't close to it before.
No.
Can you please make that go off again?
We'd love to have you have that go off again.
It's going all the way up to red.
There we go.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. We appreciate you
Wonderful.
talking to us.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We came here to see the ceremonial sites that are here. Did you make some of the pottery that we've seen and leave behind the shells? Hopefully that's able to be seen. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows we are where there's absolutely no
There's
chance for
nothing
any
here.
electrical out here.
Thank you for communicating with us. We appreciate it. So you did create some of the pottery here? No. Did you live here? Or are you just passing through?
Were you buried here? Are you a spirit of the land?
Is there still anyone here?
We might have had them go away.
It's hard to see with the sunlight. It's so
Yeah.
bright.
Now, Kelly, one of the reasons why we might have spirits here is not only these, obviously, we have burial mounds there, but also, that ceremonial mound has been torn apart and they have all of the things that they found value in have been pulled out. We don't know why they left. Were they attacked and killed? Did they die from disease? Who knows? So there's a lot of reasons why they might be here. But we thought, wow, that's cool. We rarely get the K2 to go to red, and it's going to red here among all these mounds. And we weren't expecting to get anything out there. We
No.
just thought, well, we'll bring this with us. Now, I listened back to the recorder and I was like, please, please, please have some chanting in the background. And we didn't get anything like that. But
There was some chanting. Luckily, she bleeped it out because I was chanting some words as I kept getting bit because they would not leave me. I literally ran at one point.
Kelly, cursing a lot is not chanting.
Sorry.
All right. So the next thing that we did is we headed over to Riverside Drive, and this is in a town called Yankeetown.
We ventured a little out of Crystal River to a small fishing village about 12 miles north named Yankeetown. This is closer to the coast and is just upstream of where the Withlacoochee River flows into the Gulf of Mexico. This village was first settled by an Indiana lawyer named Armanus Knotts in 1923. He decided to build a lodge to cater to the fishermen flocking to the area. He named the lodge Isaac Walton Lodge after the author of the fishing classic The Complete Angler by Isaac Walton. That book was written in England in the 1600s. The lodge still stands and has been converted into the Blackwater restaurant. And let me just say, it looks amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's the
Such
only
a cool
restaurant
building.
they have there, but it's huge.
It serves up hand-carved steaks and fresh local seafood, and unfortunately, we did not eat there, but
No.
it looks amazing. And in addition to that, they have ghosts.
Hey, all the better. Why not have a steak and ghosts?
It is said that water taps turn themselves on and music will play when nothing is turned on. A young woman's image has been seen in a mirror, and there are even reports of being pushed by something unseen.
And I believe there is a Isaac Walton Lodge that's over in England too. So, or something that's similarly named for him. They give him a little bit of esteem over there as well. There are some haunted houses here as well, and several places that served as filming locations for Elvis Presley's movie Follow That Dream. If you follow our YouTube channel or our TikTok, which we'd love to have you guys subscribe and follow us on all of that social media, you may have seen the video that we put together as we tracked down all of these different filming locations. It was so much fun because we both love Elvis Presley. I love the song Follow That Dream. It's one of his better movies, and I had no idea that it had been filmed here in Florida, much less at Crystal River. And here we are just staying there, and we're like, wait, what? And I was like, holy cow, wait a minute. Elvis Presley just filmed up the road here about 64 years ago at about the same time
The
of the
same
year.
date.
Yeah.
He finished filming after 6 weeks and left the day before we went to the location,
Yeah, so
which
he
is crazy.
he left on August 21st. He'd gotten there in July, and we went up to Yankeetown on August 22nd. So I'm like, wow, 64 years to the day almost. So that was really cool.
Talk about synchronicity.
Yeah, so the road that leads into Yankeetown and this particular bridge that we were looking for, which is called the Bird Creek Bridge, is named Follow That Dream Parkway. So they embraced the fact that they had Elvis Presley here at one time. So we drove ourselves down that Follow the Dream Parkway, and it poured rain while we were doing this.
Did.
There was a snake on the road that we had to stop so that Kelly could get out and try to catch it, but she unfortunately was not
I
able to
know.
do that.
Yellow rat snake. They're so cool.
As we're going down there, we passed the Nature Coast Inn, and this is where a lot of the cast and crew stayed. It wasn't where Elvis stayed. He stayed at a place that we're going to talk about in a little bit that's also happens to be haunted. A little bit nicer place, of course. And this place is still open to stay at if you want to stay there. And then we got to the bridge. Now, many locals played extras in the movie, and also they were hired to help build some of the sets, and they needed a beach. So the locals were hauling in all this sand to a wonderfully named island for those of us who love Halloween. What's that island called, Kelly?
Chicken Island.
An island. Who doesn't love that name for an island? But it didn't have a really big beach on it, and they needed a big beach. So they hauled all this sand into Pumpkin Island to make this beach that is featured in the movie. We also drove over to a town called Inverness, and that was so that we could see the old Citrus County Courthouse. And it's today now a museum, but it was the set for the courtroom scenes in the movie. And as I said, we made a short video. So if you guys want to check that out, you can see that on our TikTok or our YouTube channel. And we think you'll really get a kick out of it. And actually did the video in the courthouse as a live on Facebook. So everybody got to see us as we were going through it in
It was
actual
pretty
real
neat.
time.
Even the original chairs from the scenes were still there.
So then you're like, did Elvis sit in this one? Did Elvis sit in that one? I was almost tempted to sit in all of them to be like, I think I sat in a chair that Elvis once sat in.
That his tush used to sit on for a short time.
Did his butt touch this? And then we headed back into Yankeetown and over to this Riverside Drive. Yankeetown has many great examples of old Florida cracker homes. Crackers were early settlers, as we said, to Florida, and they built homes that were conducive to the hot and humid weather. So this meant that they had really tall ceilings and they had big windows that they could open and kind of get a draft coming through. And one of the good things about being near the coast is you do get a lot of those coastal breezes. The streets here on Riverside Drive were really narrow and pretty beat up. I mean, I'm like, when's the last time they paved this thing?
Thank goodness we were driving in a four-wheel drive truck.
Yeah. But also there were these, the large oak trees that we have here in Florida, just draped in Spanish moss. So it really felt like we were going back to the time when the crackers were there because this was not developed. It's all these old homes. There were a few newer ones that they were putting in, but it just had this really neat feel to it. Not only was the lodge on this street, but there also was a couple of haunted homes on the street. And one of them was across from the lodge. That's the only description we have for it. So we weren't sure if it was these two smaller cracker kind of houses that are now businesses. There was one that was like a
Real
souvenir.
estate.
Yeah. There was one that was a real estate and one that was like a souvenir t-shirt kind of shop or whatever. And then there was another house that was kind of catty corner from it. So I'm not sure which one this is talking about, but Mama DD wrote about this. And she wrote, I've heard many ghost stories about some of the houses on Riverside Drive. The one I know happened was the old house across from Isaac Walton Lodge. Yankeetown is called an original cracker town, and the houses by the river still had the slave quarter houses standing. My sister lived in one of these houses, so one day we're going to do something at her house, and I remember seeing an old black man sitting at the top of the slave house staring down at us with worn clothes, and as I tell my mother there's someone here, and she replies that there's no one there, then she drags me back to the truck and we leave. So this girl is seeing a full-bodied apparition sitting on top of the house that probably was a former enslaved person.
Yeah.
She also told me stories when she was in the large plantation house and she thought her son was in the house trying to scare her, but she realized he was outside. So she started running for the door and she heard louder footsteps chasing her. When she got outside, she slammed the door and refused to enter the house alone after that. There have been other stories told about this house, but I cannot remember all the details. So I don't know. She's mentioning a large plantation house, which I didn't see anything that looked like a large plantation house. So I don't know if maybe it's not there anymore.
Yeah, maybe it's no longer standing. And another house that we couldn't pinpoint because of lack of details was shared by a woman named Mary Cachelet. She wrote in 2019, I stayed at a home on Riverside Drive. I had no knowledge ahead of time of hauntings. During the night, when I got up to go to the bathroom, I heard a woman saying, Help me, in despair. I heard a deeper man's voice saying it would be all right. I thought it was my friend having a nightmare in her room and her husband comforting her. When I returned to the bedroom, I asked my daughter if she heard anything. She said she heard a distressed voice going across the room. She couldn't make any words out. When I asked my friends the next morning, they said nothing happened and they heard nothing.
These next two locations we didn't visit. This is the Karma Cottage and Heritage House. And I know one of the reasons we didn't go to the Heritage House is because it wasn't even opened. So the Karma Cottage is located at 652A North Citrus Avenue. And we should have gone here. I don't know why we didn't. It's a metaphysical and rock shop.
I
So,
love rocks.
yeah, we
and
would have loved it.
crystals.
It opened in 2010, and these owners came from Denver.
Oh,
So,
all right.
a little something to talk to them about. So, next time we go to Crystal River, we're going to visit the Karma Cottage. The Citrus County Chronicle reported in 2016 in Crystal River, Karma Cottage owners Katie Novak and Andy Crane say the upper level of their building, which was the former garage to the main house that is now days gone by, located next door to them on Citrus Avenue, had been removed from the main house and added to the top of their building. The son of the owner of the main house reportedly lived in that upstairs apartment until he died. We've heard footsteps walking upstairs when we know nobody's up there. I've heard things fall up there as if someone dropped something, and I go up and check it out, and there's nothing, Novak said. But it goes beyond just hearing. I've actually seen a man looking out the upstairs window when I was out front, Novak said. I've named him John. She doesn't feel threatened by what she's seen and heard and actually thinks he's just curious. Well, until he starts, slapping you in the middle of the night.
Oh, goodness.
And then Heritage House is a gift shop located at 657 North Citrus Avenue, and it's part of the Heritage Village, which is made up of several historic homes. So we definitely need to hit this place too, because it looks like they're very cool, and a lot of them are Victorian in styling. The Heritage House was built in the late 1800s. The Chronicle also wrote about it. Across Citrus Avenue is Heritage Village. Laura Lou Fitzpatrick, owner of Heritage House, whose family owned those buildings, says she's never had a personal ghostly experience, but one of her former tenants has. Dorothy Kohler, who now works at All About Nature, once ran an antique shop in Heritage House. I had been down in St. Pete when I got a call that an elderly lady customer of mine, Uma Cross, had passed away, Kohler said. I stopped at her house to look at her things and bought some of her antique kitchen items. Right after bringing them back to her shop, Kohler was helping a customer at the front counter when an older woman came in and just wanted to browse. I was still wrapping the package for the customer at the counter when the elderly lady came back up from the kitchen area and said, I want you to know you have a spirit in the shop. Surprised, Kohler asked, How do you know that? What did you see? The customer described seeing an elderly woman wearing a long dress with her hair tied back in a bun. That was Uma Cross, Kohler confirmed. She always dressed that way. She told the customer, I just came back from St. Pete from her kitchen, and those are her things. She must have been checking out her stuff.
Aw.
Or making sure they got to you safely, or maybe she was like, hey, you stole my stuff, man. Give it back.
Next, we're going to move on to Crystal River Cemetery. The Crystal River Cemetery was established in 1860 and is fairly small. Many of the pioneers from the area were buried here. And for being a small cemetery, it had quite a few Woodmen of the World headstones.
I don't think I've ever seen so many in a cemetery, even a large one. There were at least, I think, 6 of them.
It was quite concentrated.
And considering...
And a couple of women, too.
Yeah, a couple of women had them. And considering that, I don't know, what would you say? There's about 150 people that at least had headstones. I'm sure there's more buried there than that.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
I think that's a pretty good amount for that few of people.
I would say that there was even more than 6.
Maybe.
One of the burials here was a very small headstone that just read Pope Culbreth of Tampa. We found out more about him.
Yeah, you gotta love it when you can find an obituary on the people.
Yeah.
It is our melancholy duty to record the death of Henry Pope Culbreth, which took place on Thursday, February 3rd at 8:00 p.m. at Crystal River, where he'd been recently engaged running the William Cedar Mills. Mr. Colbreth was one of the best and most favorably known citizens of this section of Florida, and he, in conjunction with his brothers, was the owner of the famous Edgefield Grove, situated a short distance west of the Hillsborough River. He was born in Edgefield County, then known as Edgefield District, South Carolina, June 28, 1847, and was consequently in his 40th year when his sudden and untimely end, which resulted from a violent attack of pneumonia. I didn't know pneumonia could be like violent, but apparently that's how they put it, plunged his family and their numerous friends into mourning. The deceased gentleman was distinguished throughout his life for that plain simplicity of conduct which knew no other aim than the performance of duty. When at the age of 15, the Civil War broke out, he, with his brother, Ira P., joined a regiment from his native state under command of his father, Colonel Colbreth, and fought throughout the struggle with a steadfast courage and devotion, which, while on account of his youth, it won for him no advancement in rank, ensured him the earnest and warm appreciation of his comrades. So I was like, wow, his dad's like, oh, I know you're only 15, but yeah, you can come join the war. I'm sure the mother was thrilled.
Well, there were many children buried in this cemetery, and 5 plots really caught our eye. If you follow us on social media anywhere, you may have seen the reel that we made featuring those headstones. We'll play the audio for that here.
Every so often in cemeteries, you run into some of these stories that are just devastating. You don't really know the full story, but if you read the tombstones, you can find out a little bit more. And Kelly and I are in this old historic cemetery in Crystal River, Florida. It's definitely from the 1800s is when it was established. So we notice that there's all of these headstones here that are all exactly the same in their styling. And they all belong to the King family. And then we started looking at dates. You've got born 1877 to 1879. So that's 2 years old. 75 to 77. So you got a daughter, a son. Here's another son, 69 to 1870. So one. And actually, that wasn't even one because that was November. So that's like two months. You've got a 66 to 68. So not even 2 years here, about a year and a half. And an 1860 to an 1878. So you might have gotten 18 years here. So basically, this one is the only one who might have lived to an adulthood.
Yeah.
So 5 children, that's just devastating. So Kelly, our listeners know us. We had to know more.
Yes.
So we get back to our campsite and I'm thinking about the last name King. And I'm like, there's got to be something about that. And then it occurred to me that in this area of Crystal River, there's a bay. And what is that bay called?
Kings Bay.
So I went, I wonder, that family was the King family. We have Kings Bay. Is there any kind of connection here? And sure enough, there was. Turns out the Kings Bay was named for Edwin King, who was the father of 4 of those children. He was born in 1836 at Kings Ferry, Florida, which, yes, was named for his family. Apparently, his father, Thomas King III, was a ferry operator on the St. Mary's River. And that third was something that Thomas adopted because there were 2 other Thomas Kings in the area.
Oh.
So it wasn't like he was the third
He wasn't
Thomas
a third.
King in their family. He's just like, I need to figure out a way to say I'm not them.
Differentiate myself.
And unfortunately, Thomas actually died before Edwin was born. I was looking at dates and I'm like, wait, how can his father have died here and Edwin was born there? And I went, it must have crossed over from one year to the next because Thomas is going to die in 1835 and Edwin was born in 1836. So I was like, oh, he never got to know his dad. So Thomas was 55 at the time and Edwin was his 13th child. Edwin would eventually take over the ferry business with 2 of his older brothers, Andrew Jackson King, I wonder what he was named for, and Henry Perry King. In 1854, Edwin went to law school in Boston, and in 1859, he married Mary Ann J. Stafford. And as we saw on those headstones, it was Edwin and Mary Ann that were the parents there. And that last name Stafford, when we remembered back, we remembered that there were Staffords that were buried next to those children too.
Yep.
So part of her family is buried here as well. The couple would move to Crystal River in 1863, and the lawyer decided he wanted to be a merchant. So he opened a general store. Forget about being the lawyer thing. They had a home on the bay, and that bay would be Kings Bay, and it got its name from them then. During the Civil War, Edwin wrote his brother Josiah that he would like him to come to Florida when the war was over. An excerpt reads, "It is with much pleasure that I seat myself to write you a few lines, hoping it will find you and your family well, as it leaves me and my family at present. I'm getting along finely down here. I have plenty to eat, such as cane sugar, syrup, potatoes, rice, and bacon." Doesn't that make everybody want to come run into Florida?
Yeah.
"I want you to move down here when the war is over. I have a good place for you where you can get more fish than you can eat and raise as many hogs as you please and cattle accordingly. I have no news to write you. All is quiet down here. The Yankees came up the river some time ago, but we killed some of them and sent them back." So I was like, oh boy. A couple of his brothers did join him, and his brother Andrew Jackson Perry took over the King's Ferry business after the war. He had a daughter named Martha King, who died at 17 years old. That is the fifth tombstone that we talked about there. We thought maybe she'd been 18. She was
Right.
actually 17. We're not quite sure what she died from. And what was really strange to me is King's Ferry is kind of near Crystal River, but it's not real near to it. So I don't know why Martha is buried here with Edwin's children. I don't know if she was maybe in town when she passed away, so they didn't send the body back to Kings Ferry, or since Edwin had so much of his family here, they were like, "We'll bury her there." My mom did give me this idea when I was talking to her about this. She had wondered if this had been a family plot that got expanded into the bigger cemetery. So I don't know. Maybe they were like, well, they own the land here. I don't know that for sure. But I just was like, I wonder why she's buried here.
Yeah.
Edwin and Mary ended up having 8 children. So thankfully, 4 of the children did make it into adulthood, because we were just talking about what a sad story. You have these 4 children that all died pretty close to each other. So those 4 headstones that are there are for Layla Elizabeth King. She was born in 1866 and died in 1868. Then there was Edwin Jr. So unfortunately, he passes away. He was born in 1869 and died in 1870. So those are back-to-back children, I'm kind of assuming there. Franklin R. King was born in 1875 and he died in 1877. And then Lottie Eloise was born in 1877 and died in 1879. So most of their children didn't even make it to 2 years of age there, those 4 that passed away. And they died in different years, so it wasn't like, yellow fever came through and got all of them. You've got a
Right.
10-year space in there that they died over. So it could have been a variety of illnesses. We don't know for sure. And then the other thing that we found out is that Edwin and Mary are buried here at the Crystal River Cemetery as well, but they're in unmarked graves. So I don't know if it's because there was no other family to get them headstones. I would think some of their children would have survived them. So I don't know. And you named a bay for these people, so you'd think that the city would want to
Well,
mark something.
I mean, grave robbers, I don't know, because it seems like they must have been prominent people
Yeah,
in the area. Maybe they thought that grave robbers would, try to get into their burial to
that's
see if they
possible.
had any jewels or anything else of value.
That's possible.
We don't usually do investigations in cemeteries, but we decided to do one here. And based on our experiences, we returned the following day for verification. Here is our first video of the EMF activity. For those just listening, the EMF went to yellow and kept going off, but it only seems to be in one area.
Hi.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for saying hi to us.
here?
Yeah, we saw that there's a bunch of children buried
It's so unfortunate.
in this cemetery. Not many of them. We don't know if some kind of a plague came through here or what. Could you get it to go all the way to red for us? We would love that. We're in the historic Crystal River Cemetery right now. Now, we'd love to have you make that go to red. Can you make it go to red, please? All the way? We would
We'd
love that.
appreciate it. It lights up like a rainbow. All the colors.
Yeah, can you get it to go all the way to this one?
If you touch it,
We would love that,
it'll go
please.
higher. Is your family here?
It's a little rainy today. Do you like the rain? Did you ever play with the rain?
Like in the rain? Jump in muddy puddles?
Yeah,
Splash around?
puddles are great.
Maybe that happened.
Hello.
Yeah. We don't have any
There's no
wires above us.
power or wires around us, so I
Mhm.
don't think we're getting EMF here.
Yeah.
Do you belong to this tombstone here? It's very dirty. I can't see who that is. It's Warren. Are you a spirit who is attached to a body in this cemetery?
Were you a child when you passed? It just keeps coming back to this spot.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's something about this spot that's picking up an EMF.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, maybe not.
Come back right here.
If this is a spirit that we're talking to, can you make that go all the way to red?
Please, just so we know that it's actually you. Making that light up.
I'm just trying to debunk that this is something. Maybe we're picking up on some EMFs coming through here. Can you light it up for us again? I'm coming back over to this area.
I
Yeah,
think
I'm wondering if there's
right
something here.
I don't know what it would be, but
So weird because I was just saying, well, I guess nobody wanted to
look at
talk
that
to
little
us.
headstone.
And then it started going like crazy. Unless it's somebody that is specifically
get our
attached to
attention.
something right here. If I'm over here, can you come over here
Please.
and touch this device? Can you come over here and light it up?
Look like a something on this one. I'm wondering if it was an ant, not a mosquito.
Huh. Yeah, there's
it's
gotta
gotta
be
be
something right here.
Dang it.
I was all excited.
Well,
Yeah, I think we have debunked that because
it can happen. So as you hear, we decided that somehow, even though we were in the middle of a cemetery, that we were somehow catching EMF from somewhere and that this wasn't a spirit.
yeah, because Kelly, you and I are open-minded skeptics, which means we go skeptical first.
Right.
And then prove to me that something supernatural is happening here. And because it was just that one area, and the minute we like took 2 steps this way, 2 steps that way, it would go away. I was like, no, there's something right here that's setting it off. I don't know if we're getting somebody's Wi-Fi coming through here, if there's a cable under the ground. I don't know. But I was like, yeah, I don't think that was anything.
Well, we decided to return the next day to the same spot and just see what happened. After this, we decided that we did indeed have a spirit hanging around us.
So we'll go ahead and play the video that we took this second time. Do we have anybody here with us? Can you make this go all the way up to the red?
Whoa.
Can you get it to go all the way to the red, please? We were here yesterday. Do you remember us? I'm Diane, and this is Kelly.
Hello.
We'd love it if you could make it go to the red. Try to get to the orange, maybe? I don't know if you got to get closer to it. Walk over here a little bit, see what we're getting. It's still going off. Sure love to have you make it go to the red. Oh, I still get the something here. Hmm? Are you walking with us?
Is it still going?
Yep.
Oh, I thought it stopped over here.
No, yesterday when we were still going. Yesterday when we were here, it only went off in one spot, but it's going off. It's like you're going with us.
Well, thank you. We came back specifically to see you.
Yeah, we wanted to see if you would talk to us again here. I have a little device that I could get out. Are you still here? You still with us?
Hmm.
No, we're not going off at all here.
Interesting.
Okay.
Why'd you leave?
We're sorry. Did we say something to disturb you? Can you only go to certain areas?
I apologize.
Oh, are you back? Hi. Can you show us where you were buried, maybe? We should have brought your dowsing rods.
I thought you had them.
I'm sorry.
That's why I was asking.
No, you asked me about this other equipment. I don't remember. You asked me if I had dowsing rods, but
Yeah, I thought you were bringing your bags. I didn't think at the end when
all
you
right.
said no. I tried
You want to
bring my
keep holding this and
Sure.
I'll get the...
Later, the EMF did ping to orange.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get that on video, but it did
Yeah.
go up to orange.
So we didn't get red, but the orange was nice. And a couple of times, Diane felt like her arm went through a spider web.
Yeah, it was so weird because obviously it's Florida. You've got Spanish moss hanging down and
Well,
everything.
yeah.
So the first time it happened, I was like, oh, crap, I just walked through a spider web. So I was like really trying to clean my arm off because if you walk through a spider web in Florida, it could be like a huge spider.
Tropical orb weaver.
Yeah. And so I was
Pretty big.
like, I don't want a web on me because it might mean there's a huge spider near me. But I didn't see a web anywhere. And I try to like not go through webs if I can help it. And I'm like, I didn't see a web anywhere. And I kept like grabbing my arm and trying to brush it off. And I'm like, I don't even feel any webbing. Cause like usually you could at least feel a string.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't feel anything. So I thought, well, that's weird, but it's probably nothing. But then about 5 minutes later, I felt it again, and it's the same arm that I'm holding the EMF device in, the K2. And so I was like, I wonder if something is like, because this time we were walking all over the cemetery. 'Cause I'm like,
Yes.
we're going to test this. And we were like way far away from the area where we got the EMF the first time.
And it continued to follow
And
us.
it was all over the place. And then I also had, even though I don't like to use the apps on the
Right.
phone, our SB7, for some reason, it's not working, so we might have to get a new one. And that's the spirit box I'd brought with us, so I was using an app that was a spirit box, and we kept going, "If you don't make this go to red, we're going to have to leave." And it came across, "Don't go," right after we said that, so I was like, "Okay, somebody doesn't want
Yeah.
us to go." But they still weren't getting it to red, so I don't know if it was something that they were incapable of doing. I don't know how much energy it takes.
I can't imagine that much investigation goes on at that location. So it could just be a matter of not really knowing how to interact as well.
Exactly. And here's the feeling that we got. That first day is they probably haven't ever had anybody do an investigation in there, and they were like, "Wait, somebody's trying to talk to us." So they got, like, excited and were like, "Oh." So it was somebody that was, like, right there, and then we left. Well, then when we came back the next day, they were like, "Oh my gosh, they're back again. They wanna talk to us." And that time, they were, like, going around with us and wanting to, "I'm trying to interact. I wanna talk to you."
Well, and it was
So
interesting too, because I don't remember, we don't have the paid app, so it doesn't record all the words. But right when we first got there, it made some kind of reference to you came back or you're back
yes.
or something like that.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I think it said
definitely felt
something.
intelligent.
Yeah, it was something along the lines of "come back," but I think it was trying to say you came back, 'cause I don't know why it would be telling us to come back because we were, like, just standing right there,
Mm.
so. But it was interesting. We've never really done investigations in a cemetery before, but I don't know, for some reason I was like, "Oh, let's see what happens."
Yep.
We'll leave
And
that to you
we'll
to decide.
Yeah, indeed. And we'll go back eventually too, so
Yeah.
we'll report back if we get any more information. So next we're going to cover the Plantation Inn on Crystal River. So this is our final spot. We only got to see the outside of it because it's being renovated.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It has a really cool fountain outside of it though. The Plantation Resort, as it is called now, is located at 9301 West Fort Island Trail. This is a replica plantation house built in 1962 that covers 232 acres and features golf, adventures, 3 restaurants, and a spa. There is at least one spirit here that is said to be the ghost of a young girl who can be heard calling for her mother. Guests have reported unexplained phenomena, and we have several of those stories to share.
D wrote in 2016, I stayed at the Plantation Inn about 11 years ago, and I've told numerous people about my experience there. This evening, my daughter and I were talking about the remake of the movie Roots, and we got on the subject of ghosts. I told her about my experience at the Plantation Inn. The first night I stayed at the inn, I was a little unsettled because I felt like I should not be there. It was just a feeling I had because the look of the place reminded me of the big house with slave quarters on each side. I even mentioned it to my white coworker, and she just kind of laughed it off. Anyway, later that night when I went to bed, and I'm a very light sleeper, but about 30 minutes after I got in bed, I was still awake but just about to fall asleep. I felt tugging on the bedspread. I opened my eyes and laid there very still. Then it happened again. At this time, I was scared, but I got up and looked around and opened the closet door, looked around the bed, but no one or nothing was there. So I said a prayer to God and went back to bed and went to sleep. I told my coworker what happened and I told the lady at the front desk, but I don't think they really believed me. And the lady at the front desk just kind of laughed it off. I walked around the inn, inside and out, went to the golf shop, which was a short walk from the inn, but I kept looking back at the inn, and I still had a feeling that slaves lived there at one point. I still don't know if this is true or not. But the second night, before I went to bed, I checked the entire room and I double checked to make sure that the door was locked. I watched TV for a while, then I turned off the TV and started dozing off, and it happened again. This time the tugging was harder. Finally, I said out loud, "Look, I have to be here because of my job. Please leave me alone. I'm leaving here tomorrow. I'm sorry for what happened to you, but please leave me alone." I said my prayers again and fell asleep, and it didn't happen again. After the meetings, I was rushing to get out of there. Every year, I talk about my experience at this inn. It's something I will never forget.
Wow.
Somebody just wanted some covers, and you were taking too many of them.
Get out of my bed. Vivian wrote in 2017, about 2 years ago, I stayed at this hotel for business purposes. I was sleeping but felt tugging on the sheets.
Again.
And I woke up to see a dark, tall silhouette standing at the side of my bed. I screamed and screamed, tried to move, but was paralyzed with fear and couldn't move, and suddenly it was gone, and I could move again. At first, I thought someone had broken into my room. I looked through the room, and there wasn't any evidence of a break in. I didn't say anything to the front desk, thinking I must have had a nightmare, but I was very scared. I was staying on the first floor. It was room 100 something, but I couldn't remember the exact number. I did tell a coworker about the incident, who then said that there had been a haunting incident there. I was telling my niece about the incident yesterday, and she pulled up the name of the hotel after I told her the story, and she read what happened to the person in room 107. It was so dauntingly similar that the same wave of fear that I experienced that day came back for a few minutes. This place is haunted, and I had to stay another time there for a week after that incident, which I was very nervous about, but it was in a different room and nothing happened that time, thank God.
Kate wrote in 2018, I didn't have any experiences, but my toddler seems to have been frightened by something, and we know they can see things we can't. He had nightmares every night during our stay. The final night, he woke up crying at one point. I asked him what was wrong, and he said his pillow was moving, and he saw something black by the chair. I held up my jacket that was hanging on the chair, but he said it was something else. He seemed to be struggling to describe it, but said what he'd seen was too black.
Oh,
I'm like, what?
shadow person.
Yeah. I assured him it was just a nightmare, but an hour or so later, he woke up crying again. This time, my husband, who hadn't heard the first episode, got up with him. I heard my son telling him the exact same thing, that his pillow was moving and something black was on the chair by his bed. This time, he insisted on sleeping in our bed for the remainder of the night, and who could blame him? I asked him about it in the morning because he'll usually tell me about his scary dreams. This time, however, he kept insisting it was not pretend.
Wow.
So he was like, I am serious
Poor
here.
guy.
Yeah, something really did scare him. Yanni wrote in 2019, during our recent visit, I was having a lot of difficulty sleeping. I kept having nightmares. On our last night, I continued to have problems falling asleep. When I finally did, I started having nightmares and woke up around 1 a.m. with a feeling that something was in the room watching. I prayed, turned, and hugged my husband. That's like a shield, too. Grab the person that's next to you. I fell asleep again and woke up around 3 a.m. with a nightmare of a young woman being in our room looking at us. It made me super scared. I woke up super scared, and on my side of the bed, I felt this presence and saw a black shadow. I closed my eyes and started praying again. I turned and hugged my husband and felt that the thing went away. The next morning, I told my husband what happened, my dream, feelings, and what I think I saw. And my husband told me he'd had difficulty sleeping because every time he's closed his eyes, he would see a young woman with hair up to her shoulders coming towards him. He felt this presence the whole night, and when he woke up, there was a black shadow around him. We both thought that the place was probably haunted because that's never happened to us. Well, thank God. I mean, every time we go to a hotel, we have this dream. And for both of us to see, dream, and feel the same thing, that's not a coincidence.
No?
It's not.
I thought the husband was going to say, I had a hard time sleeping because you kept squeezing me and waking me up.
That's exactly what I thought he was going to say. Every time I started to fall asleep, then
You're
you
hanging
kept
on to me.
grabbing me. Leave me alone.
Anonymous wrote in 2023, we stayed here last week because I thought it looked beautiful and we knew nothing about the history. We drove up and thought how fabulous it was. We walked inside to check in and both immediately had a weird feeling despite the beauty and the kind staff. Later in the evening, we heard a girl crying for nearly 2 hours and could not figure out where exactly it was coming from. We fell asleep exhausted from driving all day, and I was woken up from a deep sleep at 3 a.m. All these very weird noises, and the feeling was bizarre. If my husband had not been with me, I would have thought I was crazy. By about 4 a.m., we'd looked online, and I swear to you, I read it was haunted by a little girl crying for her mother. And I was in shock reading about it. We are low key, no drama people, and never experienced anything like this. By 6 a.m., we were out of there.
You and I would have been grabbing our equipment and going, hot diggity. I wish more of them would have shared what rooms they were in. Is it all the same room that this is happening in? Is it the same floor it's happening in? Unfortunately, the plantation, I guess now they call it the resort and spa, it's been hit with so many hurricanes that we had last year that they had to shut down, and then they weren't refurbishing it, but it did get bought by a new owner, and that's why when we went, it was being renovated. They're supposed to start opening it up this September here in 2025, slowly in little increments and stuff. So, it looks like it probably is a beautiful place. It was starting to get a little bit run down and everything, so now it's gonna be real nice, and, supposedly a big chain is going to be managing it. And I was reading all different kinds of rumors. It could be Marriott, it could be Margaritaville, but whoever's taking it over, it looks like they're going to take care of it. And it just looks like that old Florida Southern charm kind of thing going on.
Yeah,
And it's a place where those adventures include swimming with manatees. So
it does.
I know we're going to be doing that the next time we go to Crystal River.
Indeed.
Crystal River really is a beautiful area. And the springs are not to be missed. You could see all the way to the bottom of them. We didn't get in them, but there was plenty of people who were getting in them. And it's like 74 degrees year round. So what more could you ask for?
And you can watch jumping mullet that are like 18 to 24 inches long.
Yeah, we made
Just
a video of
randomly
that
jumping.
too.
They were
Yes.
so funny.
We did a live on Facebook if you're not in our Spooktacular crew, you miss some stuff because we like to do lives and stuff in there. And so they got to watch the mullets jumping and things like that. And those springs are not to be missed, especially in the cooler months, because that is when the manatees gather because they need to get into that warmer water. The ocean, the Gulf, it starts to get cool. So they come into those springs so that they can stay warm enough because they will die and go into shock if they get too cold. Is it possible that some ghosts have gathered here as well? Is Crystal River haunted? That is for you to decide. Just a great place. I know we will be going back there. I've been there a couple of other times, and it's great. If you love nature,
Beautiful.
it's called the Nature Coast for a reason, and obviously it's got some great history there as well. We'd love to have you guys check out our website at historygoesbump.com, and if you'd like to send us some feedback, you can do that at any of our social media or also email us at historygoesbump@gmail.com. If you guys enjoy the show, please share it and leave us a review wherever you're listening. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and also hit the like button. We love hearing the little ding from the likes and that kind of thing.
Yes, we do.
And we love your comments. Please let us know if you're liking what we're doing, if you're liking the material and that kind of thing. It just helps us to know what you guys are looking for out there. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. I've been your host, Diane.
And this has been Kelly.
You take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This episode is brought to you by our executive producers.
Dispatches from the Grave Digger.
And we are going to welcome somebody new into our cemetery. So Mort's going to have some work to do.
Finally.
We want to welcome in Jennifer Torres. We are going to be burying you under an obelisk headstone.
Thank you so much for supporting History Goes Bump.
If you would like to support the show, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/historygoesbump.
Native Americans had called the Crystal River Wee-Wahi, Wee-Wahi.
We.
Wee.
Gotta go wee-wee.
I gotta go wee-wee now.
We don't usually do investigations and ceremonies.
We don't do investigations during ceremonies. Hey, it's a
In
wedding.
ceremonies.
Let's see if we can find some ghosts. Come on. We're like Wednesday. Wednesday likes to go to funerals and
It's a
maybe
hobby.
yeah. We go to ceremonies and see if we can find ghosts.
We don't usually do investigations and ceremonies. Oh my God.
She did it again. You really do want to make it a hobby. You and your sound effect.